All right, so today we're going to be making this beautiful device called a viewfinder. You guys will probably have to make these from home. Originally in class we would make these together. I would provide the materials, but alas, here we are, COVID times, having to be resourceful. So what a viewfinder is used for is it's a really awesome guide when you're working on your drawings as a way to set up your composition. You use it as a tool to look for the parts of what you're looking at. Maybe you're looking at, I don't know, the forest or a group of women and you're like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Maybe we'll do their feet, or maybe we'll just do their heads, or do I want all three women? Do I want to box out and just make it that woman? And what looks right? Do I want to make it vertical proportion? Do I want it to be horizontal proportion? That sort of thing. It's also a really good way of creating the structure of your composition and knowing where it ends on the top and on the bottom. So the way that we're going to make it is you want to take a piece of cardboard. It's really important to use a thinner cardboard. This is like the back of a Ziploc box. You can use a cereal box. You can use any thin cardboard you have at home. You don't want to use cardboard like this. It has this thicker wall, and that's going to make it really difficult to cut through. And the difficult part about this sort of cut is that it's right in the center. And if you've ever cut something like that and tried not to cut directly into it, that can be a little tricky. I'll teach you guys a couple techniques, but there's also the last ditch effort where you do just cut it. Anyway, so you have your piece of cardboard and you're going to measure out, first of all, this cardboard piece is too small. This one is just right. You want it to be about 3 inches by 2.5, and give or take. Basically, you want to make sure that you have about 1/2 inch to 1 inch of border space. So you will make it 1.5 inches tall or wide, however you think of it in your mind, and 2 inches long. Here we go. And this is the ratio that is applied to drawing paper that you guys have and the newsprint. So then you were like, oh, how am I supposed to cut into this? So normally you'd have an X-Acto blade and you can cut into the cardboard. I myself don't have an X-Acto blade. So I use scissors, and it's a little bit dangerous. So if you're not entirely confident with that method, I don't blame you. But what you would do, if you are confident with it, and you've cut your hole into there, it's really still hard to do. You gotta press pretty hard. Okay, I've created a hole in there. I can go in, I can cut all around the perimeter. If you're like, I'm not gonna hold scissors like that, are you crazy? You can try using a push pin, or maybe your mom has a sewing needle. I don't know why I said your mom. Your dad could have a sewing needle too. Or maybe you don't even have a dad. Maybe you don't even have parents. Maybe your roommate or you. Okay, so you just make these little incisions, these little pokes in there, and then you have this nice little line. They're all right next to each other. So created this very bootsy system, but it works. So there's my little cut line, my little incision, and then I can slide in my scissors and use them to cut out the center. Maybe this is good practice for you before you start carving your jack-o'-lanterns. Okay, cutting, cutting, cutting. Right. So now I have my little viewfinder window. And then if you want to, you can put in a little layer of plastic for the, like, this portion, because that can be really useful when we get into sighting and drawing a grid throughout your window, because that can help you see a little bit more clearly. Oh my gosh, so hard to set this up. How to set up your composition based on where does each object fall within the grid. And we'll go over that more in a couple weeks when we're working on that. But for now, this is more just a guide on how to get it set up so you are prepared. So you're going to take some plastic. You can use like wax paper, but that's a little bit too foggy and cloudy. I like to use plastic bag just because it's a little bit thicker than like plastic wrap. So you can cut it open and then you can tape it down. You just want to make sure that you're fitting it nicely into that square, rectangle, square. There you go. Oh, I'm taping it to the wrong side, obviously. You would want to tape it to this side. Yeah. The reason you want to tape it to this side is because it's a lot louder. There's a lot more noise. There's a lot of like extra shapes and colors and all that. And it will be distracting. Whereas this side is blank. It's kind of this nice neutral gray color. So it'll be a lot easier to work with. All right. And that's how you do it.